Hey, Noel.
How you doing?
Not too bad. How about you?
I got a job interview at 1 o'clock.
All right.
I'd like to keep this business going, but I need money.
Yep, I hear you there.
I don't want my butt. Sorry. Uh,
I'm
Fun.
I'm trying to figure out how to buy a business instead of getting a job. So buy a job.
Look, it's all good. It's all part of the discussion. I get worried that you go to the meetings alone. And so I thought I'd show up
You
because I
know,
saw a note on a LinkedIn that I showed up and I go, I don't remember showing up.
well, it would have been 4 weeks behind. So because they get the live video or the recordings go up 4 weeks later because that
Okay.
entirely because I didn't originally plan to release them, but then I did the one or two LinkedIn lives and people got really good use out of that. You
Yeah.
know, that not just me, other people got a use out of it. So I was like, well, let's go ahead. And I'd said originally in the thing that I might release them. So it wasn't like I was, retroactively, it's it's on the page. And, and so then the LinkedIn lives are just a horrible problem to try to manage. And because whatever it is that happens, that when Zoom tries to stream to LinkedIn live and it worked once, I fought it to work a second time, and then it's just not a thing. And I have to drop off camera here for a second because my nose is driving me nuts. Um,
Yeah. That's fine.
but when people were getting useful utility out of it, I was like, well, I'll go ahead and start posting them. So I just started with the first one and started working my way forward. So posting them on YouTube and sharing them out. And that actually gives me a good buffer. It's very useful to be behind because then I can batch up four or so at a time, get them all done and edited and uploaded, descriptions done, and then I built a GPT I built a Chat GPT project that has all the instructions, so I can just paste a transcript in and it builds out my descriptions in the different formats. So I can just kind of do all that in a batch. So I've got to do it this week because next week I don't have any to release. No, I think there's still one for next week. So
Okay.
I've got 2 weeks now before I absolutely have to get them done. But it's on my radar to get it done this week, and I'll have four to get done, get them uploaded, and then they schedule to post on YouTube. But I can't schedule the posts on LinkedIn or Slack because the unfurls don't work because the pub video isn't published on YouTube yet.
Okay.
And so it will just throw an error message when it eventually posts because it records that unfurl at writing time, not at posting time.
Okay.
And so it does mean I have to come back on Monday and actually remember to, hit that share post, do the share post. But it's all
Yeah.
crafted. I just have to do
I
it.
post all my stuff to YouTube, and I haven't done a live on YouTube, but the neatest thing I found this week was I was able to do cards in Gemini, and it'll do flashcards, and that's kind of a neat thing because I can say, I'm a subject matter expert and make some flashcards, and I have a link. Let's see if I can do it. I'm also using a Keep on Google because OneNote, I had everything in OneNote, and at OneNote's giving me problems. Um, can't find my Keep. I got,
Yeah,
I met with my,
I know that I've heard people use Claude to create flashcards because when they first started doing artifacts, so it could see them live in the chat. That was the first time I think I heard anybody using it for that.
yeah, Gemini made some really good flashcards, and um, because I argue with our debate with my team on whether color shift is a real thing.
Right.
The AI just agrees with me.
Well, that's the problem. You have to like say, okay, now why am I wrong?
Yeah. Well, it turns out that the lead scientist is going to go talk to some aerosol PhDs,
Cool.
and the subject of scatter came up.
Well, that's I mean that's the whole thing with with the big thing that we try to not talk about anymore, COVID, um, that, that whole, is it airborne? Because there was a industry science definition of airborne that doesn't equate to what we think of as airborne, right? That somebody at
Okay.
some point said this is the line and this is the box of how we call airborne, and if it's not that, and so it was actually like aerosolized instead, but aerosolized
Okay.
airborne.
Okay.
I mean,
Well,
that's
yeah.
not exact. I am not a scientist, but it was something like that. Like it's that labeling difference. And so finding the right people to find the right label to a science label to apply to what you're talking about I think is going to be your right path.
Well, the opacity is under the absorption sciences and the Beer-Lambert law, and that's really stable science. And the thing is that I mentioned another project, and I got a strange tone from the lead scientist. Do I detect a note of bias here? You know? And she said, "Yeah, what we're working on is real science. What they're working on isn't real science."
Right.
And I think it's just a academic institutional rivalry. I'm
Right.
not sure what else to call it. But I'll see. I can in the chat. I can share this little. I mean, I like these cards. Let's see if it works for you. Fine
But I will
chat.
say I've been impressed that I've never not had someone show up within the first 30 minutes. 15, 20 minutes late, that's happened, but never had anybody not show up within about that first 15, 20 minutes. So,
Yeah, I'm usually there right away. But if I show up to the open coffee meeting early, John Simit John is it Simitashi? No,
John Seacrest.
Seacrest. He always says, "No, you should be doing X, Y, and Z." And I'm thinking, dollar sign, dollar sign, dollar sign.
Right.
Well, I met with that wildland sprinkler company, and it looked like it was going somewhere. However, the engineer was bicycling in Thailand, and I saw on Reddit that that's somewhat of a joke that people don't understand.
Hmm.
If you go to Thailand, you might be looking for something. I'm just put
Oh,
it that
right.
way.
I had a boss who had a wife from Thailand. He eventually let's just say he left the United States rapidly and disappeared into Thailand.
Okay.
Because I don't know why. It was years after I'd worked for him, but I was trying to get a VA clearance, which I got, and security clearance for the VA, and the VA investigator is calling me up and saying, so I'm at this guy's house, and it really looks like he left in a hurry. I would say the grass hasn't been cut in about 6 weeks, and the inside stuff scattered around, but like important stuff. And she's looking at the windows. You know, do you know where he would go? Like,
Someone was actually went to someone's house
oh
and
yeah,
looked
yeah,
in
yeah.
the
That's
windows.
this is a proper security clearance. So they go and find everybody and talk to people. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. My brother was used to manage the nuclear reactors for the safety programs for the nuclear reactors for some aircraft carrier or something like that. And yeah, so yeah, he's got one of those. Yes.
And what we worked on wasn't particularly sensitive, but it could be because it
Yes.
was what was going on inside the hospitals at any particular moment, and this was the streaming video platform that operated all their internal television. Um, so but you get access to parts of hospitals that I used to work in as a kid with never any problem because I was a Red Cross volunteer with a clearance. What do I know? I had access to everything in that army hospital.
Have you ever heard of SOSV
Uh-uh.
climate matchup? I'm in that this week, and there's 500 venture capitalists, early stage VC. I'm going through the list, and it's the meets are next week, and And I've had some I've worked with these people over the years. Some years, all I ever got meetings with are people who wanted to sell me stuff, and
Right.
it's like, I'm not interested. But the investors, for the most part, um, send me back, "We'll let you know when we're interested," which is fine. I just wish they'd do it sooner than later.
Right.
Um,
Yeah. Um, I mean, so are you looking for what kind of funding are you looking for? I mean, because I'm for the first time in my life looking for funding. I'm actually paying attention to this because
um,
I've always operated on the use my own money model and not use the other people's money model, even though I've had a lot of experience talking to people, advisors who've said you should build businesses using other people's money. So what kind of funding are you looking for?
well, I've the first thing that comes to mind is a safe, because I get these requests from a Gmail account, and I have this form letter I sent back to them saying, "Do will you consider safe?" And then, of course, they usually don't respond, because I didn't think they were a credible anything. I've got videos I put together on reading these emails, and they're usually from a Gmail account. But they say, I work for this petrochemical. We're taking on investors, and we're taking on, and send it to me. I will see when it comes across my desk. I will see that it is. There's all these ifs. There's
Right.
several steps to the process, and it's like, no, 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 no. Will you consider a safe? SAFE. I would like a lead investor that can go to other VC firms, because once you have a lead investor, some of the institutional VC firms will invest in you. At least that's what they've said. That we can't be the lead investor, but when you get a lead investor, come talk to us.
Gotcha.
Um, um, my grant is finishing up, and what they're planning to do is write a peer review paper that my device can measure smoke from, well, pellet stove, uh, catalytic stove, non-catalytic stove, a boiler, whatever. They're running 350 degrees C flue temperatures through it right now, which is pretty impressive to me. I built something that can handle 572 degrees Fahrenheit for an hour, and it's still working. That's good. I've seen 700 on mine, uh, but I had to take it apart. Because the melting temperature of aluminum alloys is typically around 8 to 900 Fahrenheit. So you
Right.
kind of want to be below that. um, but there was a reason I made it out of aluminum. One, I can fabricate aluminum myself,
Right.
and it's much lighter than putting a chunk of steel up there. And it conducts heat better. So if you're trying to generate electricity based on the heat transfer through the duct, aluminum is a better material. And I can cut it on my equipment. It's like butter.
Yeah.
Versus, that ferrous material requires a much more expensive device.
Yep.
So, when you ask the question, I'm looking for a lead investor that is philosophically aligned with um, growing a company, growing a clean energy company, because I wouldn't say it's complicated, because sooner or later these things are going to be required, but you gotta ramp up to that. You got to be ready when a state goes, look, this area has been a problem. You all are going to have to put on emission monitoring and tuning equipment to get these wood stoves running, so we can clean up our air quality. I mean, I'll use Vancouver, BC is going through this right now. They have a unachievable mandate. I published a video that's simply not possible. Um, Anchorage, no, Fairbanks, Alaska has an air shed problem. Just in the winter, it's anything, large cities that are in a valley in cold regions
Right.
are going through this. That their air quality in the winter months, are less than desirable. So this system, this thing right here is a trainer for these, and it's also a emission monitor, so it can measure the emissions pretty well. The At least, and there's no sampling, so this is what's called an in situ sampler, and then there's others where you just take a, a pull a sample of gas out through some filters and weigh the filters, and that's a there's a word for it. It's in those cards, but it's not a continuously monitoring device that measures emissions. And right now the whole EPA standard is the gravimetric approach,
Right.
whereas our team is saying all you are doing is taking a picture of it as it goes by, and we're getting as much information as they're getting, and we don't have any disposable filters. So that it should be better. But I would think you're only going to need this thing for a few days to train this box, and from that time on, that wood stove should be burning clean.
Right.
So the box's job is to communicate with the user, saying, "Hey, now's a good time to put on fire. Hey, it's too hot. Can you shut it down a little bit? Are the room's a bit warm? Can you do something about this?" I don't have all that programmed in here, but I'm getting. I mean, I'm almost to the point of running my wood stoves again. I've got plenty of wood. It's all dry, 11% moisture. You know, let's see, I don't know where you live, but I live in Western Washington, where it gets to be 40 degrees Fahrenheit, 100% humidity for 3 to 5 months straight. And the wood that's stored outside, even if it's under cover, picks up a lot of moisture right out of the air.
Yep.
So I can burn it because I have combustion air, but getting it up, wood stove up to temperature can be a challenge.
Yeah.
Because
That's
you
not
put
a
a piece.
problem we have here in Florida.
Understood. I don't know that you have a lot of wood stoves there.
So my mom had one when when she moved back down, she was an hour and a half north of me. She brought her wood stoves. So she ran two in the house, and she heated exclusively with wood still. But we do get the thing about people don't understand about Florida is even 50 degrees is cold when
Yeah.
you had a 40-degree drop during the day,
Yes.
right? So, or when you're inside and it's in the mid 70s because you've got the heat on, and you go outside and it's 40 degrees or 35 degrees, it's
Yep.
cold.
Yeah, that's cold. That's cold
And
enough.
we don't regularly we have to make that decision of, do I take my flip-flops off and put shoes and socks on? That's a real decision, right?
Yeah, it is. It is.
Do I bundle up in a coat? But then what do I do with the coat when I arrive somewhere? Because there's air conditioning in the building that I'm walking into. Because it's not heated because there's still too much residual heat from the day, right? That shift between when we can have a 90-degree day and a 40-degree night, that's our winter.
I did a couple jobs in Florida. I used to do roof work, and it was in M- Marco. It was on the East Coast, way down at the tip. I remember my coworker said, Do not take this exit because that's Alligator Road. There's no coming
Alligator
back.
Alley. Once you get
Yeah,
on it, you got to go to the other side of the state.
yeah. So we gotta take this one, and then we were Lopet Marcos Island. Marcos, I could find it on Google Earth, but we were working on top of a building on it's called building roofing uplift testing.
Yeah, sure.
You put the pressure dome on, you put a negative pressure on, and if the roof lifts up and displaces the fasteners, then the roof failed.
Yep.
And we're working. I mean, they had so many air air handler units on that roof. They were stacked in an array, and then the windows and door seals were, you know, 3-4 inches because of the hurricane force type winds they get. You know, in the Pacific Northwest, we don't have that. We don't have door frames that are, more than 2 inches tall.
Right.
They were made for some pretty significant air forces.
Yeah.
So where are you in North
I'm
or
in Orlando, so I'm smack in the middle.
right in the middle?
I mean,
Okay.
I'm on the northeast side of Orlando, but still, Central Florida.
It's a uh yeah, Florida's not somewhere I want to spend a lot of time. I worked on another building there that we did nuclear testing,
Oh wow.
uh, where you had had a radioactive uh, that would shoot down into the roof, and the more water molecules that were under the roof would shoot back up into a detector. And the guy I was working with the guy who managed this thing, and I was watching everything he did. I was just an observer, and we went down and he made himself a little distribution table of all the numbers, and he'd say, okay, well, this is the one end. We need to look at these more. And then we cut the roof open. Sure enough, there's water. you know, but it was interesting. It was just interesting work. You got a great view of the ocean and everything like that, and you're working. And they had a wall, what I call a parapet wall, all around the building, so you didn't feel like you were gonna fall off this 20-story building or whatever it was. But it was interesting technology, this using a nuclear isotope to measure, because you can't travel with that. That's why we had to hire someone from uh,
Mm,
Florida area.
right.
So I had to fly from Seattle to, and I always every time I've been in Florida, it's been in the summer.
Mhm.
It's been
Every
in
time I've been to
August.
Canada, it's been in the winter. So I mean, that's the way.
Yes. I If you go to Canada, I really liked Ottawa, the capital.
Yeah.
That that I would do that again. Yeah, that they had. It was right. I was getting out right before uh, July 1st or Canada Day, and they were all saying, "Well, you should stay as Canada Day." Yeah, but I haven't seen my wife and kids in 2 weeks. I really want to go home.
Yep. Um, I've been to Seattle once. We drove up there over a weekend. Crashed by the time we got there on Monday. Slept the whole week. Got up and drove back over the next weekend. So my view of Seattle was from the inside of somebody's basement.
Okay,
And then, well, we did go do a tour of my friend's office at Microsoft on the campus, and it was also in a basement. So,
okay,
and of
yeah,
course, it was raining the entire time we were awake, which we heard that while we were asleep, it did not rain.
okay. What time of year was it?
I want to say it was like late July, August, maybe it
It
was
was
September, but
because usually July, August, September is the time to come to the Pacific Northwest.
yeah,
Typically, when I was a kid, the rain would stop July 4th, right before the 4th of July. It'd be raining all right up to the fireworks event on July 4th. Then from July 4th to mid-September, not a drop of rain. And we really do have some really nice, beautiful drives around here.
right, yeah. It was trying to think because it was maybe it wasn't. I don't know. It was Snoqualmie was almost snowed in. It snowed in behind us, but I know that that's like 6 months of the year. So getting through the pass, we got through it, and then they closed the road behind us. Um,
That's probably I-90 going
yeah,
into Seattle. Okay, yeah, that's relatively common. It can close for hours at a time.
yeah, and but it was only in the mid 50s, maybe 50 degrees overnight. Sleeping in the bus. This is my VW bus. When we were going through the Continental Divide. So in Wyoming or whatever. So it was relatively early in the year. I mean, relatively into the warm part of the year because as we know, it gets a lot colder. So I know it wasn't in the winter, and I should remember this. But it was 28, 29 years ago, 28 years ago. So,
That's a
yeah.
fair amount of time.
um, I just started a new job when I the opportunity came up because we moved a friend up there, and I told my boss, I'm like, can I get a couple of weeks off? I'm like, afraid to go to my new boss and say I need a couple of weeks off. He says, well, I'll tell you what, if you don't take the time off, I'm going to fire you. He's like, this is the kind of opportunity that you get and you take.
Okay.
Don't get to drive across country all the time with your friends. No, you don't get that opportunity that often. So take
Yeah.
advantage of it. And
Yeah.
I
I
always
try
love
to,
him for that.
yeah. Yeah. Well, the job that they're supposed to send me a Zoom link or text me, and I haven't seen anything yet. It's supposed to be at noon today, at 1 o'clock today, which is in 25 minutes. I'm not worried yet. They're the ones that want to talk to me, so that they better send me some type of. They were going to send it to my phone, and I couldn't figure out how to get it from my phone to my computer.
I know, right? Copy it, email it to yourself.
Oh well, yeah, I mean that's a step. Usually, it comes in on my computer. I don't do Zoom on my phone.
Right.
Um, but I've also learned that when they're trying to make it as easy as possible. So I'm trying to make it as easy as possible for them.
I have interviewed people who did their interview on their phone. And this is for a DevOps engineer job. This is a highly technical person who should be expected to operate and work in whatever environment to make the world work, And it's always a little weird, especially when I talk to somebody and somewhere in the conversation it comes up that they don't have a computer. That's why they're doing this on their phone, because they don't have a computer at all. They like you just the only you're a DevOps engineer, you're a sysadmin who operates infrastructure, and you don't have any computers other than the one that work provides you. That is a red flag.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough.
I mean, it's one thing to say, well, I this interview ended up scheduling between when my kid was in the hospital and I get the other kid to a ball game, and here I am, and sorry, I'm on the phone in my truck. It's okay, whatever, But I've had them like sitting at home on their phone and they're looking at the small screen. You can see them, they're doing the thing because they're trying to see the thing on screen.
But yeah, if I was doing it on my phone, I'd want it mounted so I could use my hands. I'd mount it, I'd prop it up. Um, when I was talking to the guy from the fire sprinkler company, he did it on his phone, or it appeared to me that he was on his phone. Uh, I just wonder where that engineer is.
It doesn't bother me as much if I'm talking to people, outside of tech.
Uh-huh.
I mean, right? Because they're adopting the technology and they're working with it. I'm great. Let's do it.
But I see that
software engineer. If it's somebody that should be working in software,
but I also see that if you go through life working on a work computer, there's really no reason to have a computer, and you go home not to have a computer, and so I kind of see that I'm between jobs. I don't have a computer,
right? But that's different. If your job and mostly the people that wind up running infrastructure, their hobby is also running and working with computers. And that's a little bit different than your run-of-the-mill software developer who might just do this for work and then not care at home. You end up in this edge of the field by having this deep understanding, by building that because you have a deep desire to know how it works. And that means that at least one part of your hobby is working on computers, right?
right?
So it may not be your primary. It may not be your primary now. Maybe you did that for 10 years and you're like, okay, now even though I still have computers, I'm doing other things I've recognized that I need to separate work from life a little bit. But it's a red flag to find somebody that doesn't have their own personal computers and they are running computers that make the internet work.
And how difficult is it to come over a red flag? Because I'm a PI. I get them all the time.
Right? I mean, I don't know. I guess it depends. I mean, if you've convinced me that you're late enough in your career. You made the you have the experiences that got you to the point where you know how all this stuff works, and you don't really care. Like I don't, I'm a really bad sysadmin at home, right? But I still run a lot of computers. I do. There's a lot of things that I do that are computer based, but I'm not designing and building automation and all of that. Some people I know they're running home labs, but I did the home lab thing. I did the home lab thing, and then I got real labs. And once I had worked with real labs, I stopped doing home labs. And then I got enough experience, and then things changed to where I'm like, I don't need to. My home lab is one little box with a bunch of Docker containers on it these days.
I've been thinking about running Dockers. Some of the stuff I want to do, and I just if it requires a Docker, I'm like, nah, not going there today. But some of the stuff, see, I've got this computer over here that I'm trying to do all my Arduino code and my local large language models, and then this one I do all my communications and CAD work and stuff on. But if this one breaks, I'm moving to that one.
Right. Yeah.
um, yeah, it red flags are hard to get over, and
They
so
are.
I'm trying to see less red flags and just go with the flow.
Right. Yep. And if I'm not interviewing you for a job, I don't care. But if I expect you to, if I'm going to give you the keys to my business, my client's business, my employer's business, because that's the thing. We are the people that run everything. If we are rooting when we're drunk and we delete the database because we were, drunk goggles, I'm confident in this, and here we go. And I've known guys that have done this, right?
Okay.
We wipe out the company.
Uh-huh.
That's a problem. So
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
there's a level of trust and a level of expectation and technical understanding that has to come through, you know? And this doesn't necessarily mean you have to be, there are the things that we can sometimes ignore are sociable, personable, things that you might want in another role and that we would like to have in this role. But we really would need that you understand the complex technical infrastructures. You understand the whens and the whys of do and do nots. When is it okay to say, I just have to jump in here and hammer this out? And when you should say, let's not hammer this out because it risks breaking the whole company. Because cowboy syndrome is a problem. I can just ride in and fix it.
We had people when I was working at Liberty Mutual Insurance, we had people we called cowboys.
Yeah.
Yeah, and she's a cowboy, and well, what does that mean?
Yep. It's hero syndrome. It's a lot of different things, but I used to talk about a lot, the idea of the hero that you take on that in DevOps teams and sysadmin teams, that you end up with being seen as a hero because you're the person that was able to make it work at the end. It should have gotten fixed long before it became your problem, much less your responsibility. But you end up having to be there and jump in and fix it. And the personality types, you might want to jump in early. You might be I want to jump in early and fix it and get seen as the hero. Or you might want to wait until the end because you're hoping that somebody else fixes it because you don't want to be the hero. And almost we have one or the other in this field. And finding people who have figured out where they are, they've identified their self on that spectrum and figured out that they need to be in the middle of that somewhere because we deal with outages. I mean, one of the guys I game with, so yesterday I talked to him and he's on call. They've got their team of 3, right? They do on-call rotations. And so they do 1 month on. They're on call for a month. And you're a firefighter. You understand this.
Well, I understand being on call.
And so he's working 16-hour days, 6 days a week. because on call for them means they're always dealing with fires. They're constantly. There's never any opportunity for him to do anything else. And
Right.
now they're coming in and saying, well, we want to measure velocity. And it's like all he does is respond to fires. There is no velocity. He's not producing something, right? This is a reactionary job. If I went to my local fire department and said, how many buildings have you built this week?
Yeah.
We could tell you how many buildings somebody else tried to burn down.
About 9%. Yeah.
Right. But
Yeah,
their job isn't to build them, it's to keep them, it's to rescue the people and try to save the structure. Or sometimes it's just to prevent spread. But
it's to prevent the other structure from burning.
exactly. Yeah. It's some combination of all of that.
Yes,
right?
it is.
Well, we sort of have that problem. If a developer ships code into production and it starts eating things, we have to put that fire out.
Yes, yeah, I can understand that.
And sometimes it literally happens because you'll ship code that starts deleting data or corrupting database data. And where and when you find it, unlike a fire that's sending up a smoke signal, you might not have seen it. It may have been happening for months.
Right. It might be, we've only sent out 5 copies and we're starting to see something. We can fix that.
Right.
Okay. 5 months ago, we sent out something and we've destroyed this amount. And it's out to 100,000 people.
And you're like, okay, well, we could have restored yesterday's database. We probably can't roll back 5 months of data.
Yeah.
We're going to have to figure out, and this is that last line of defense role is figuring out, do we cut it, throw away 5 months of data, restore 5-month-old database? Do we fix the bug? We make the team get the bug fixed. We identify it. We fix the bug wherever in the hero cycle we end up falling, right? Do we fix it? Do we mitigate it? And then we deal with, do we push this back upstream? Do we make management solve this problem? Do we make committees solve this problem? Do we make the last minute call that says, well, you know what? I see what I think is the solution and I can run a command that will remanipulate the data and decorrupt it. I think, right? Do I make that live call that says, I think I've got a 70 or a 90% or a 20% confidence that this will solve the problem and fix the corrupted data for my 100,000 or my million users, or do I wait and push that idea upstream and we'll reconvene tomorrow, or we'll reconvene next week. We'll send it through committee. We'll have the development teams and the architecture teams review it. That's the challenge, right? And we've got that personality type that has to make that decision live.
On call for a month. How many calls do they get?
He's on call 16 hours a day. He's working 16 hours a day. So it's a perpetual on call because their stuff is always broken.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then so he changes off for the next guy. Then what's his job role when he's not on call?
So that's in theory, and I don't know his team intricately, so I'm making some guesses, but between reading between the lines. So generally in his case, what they're doing are when they're on call, they're also responsibility for deploys.
Okay.
So they're constantly shipping new software, and that software is constantly broken. That's why he's ending up.
Okay.
Right. And so his responsibility, he's the single responsibility person to ship the deployment and deal with the consequences that come from shipping bad code. And so when he's not, his job is managing the infrastructure, managing pipelines, making sure the software is being done. They probably have sprints that they're working through and say, well, we've got this feature that's coming down the line and it's going to need these pieces of infrastructure and architecture behind it that have to get built before it can release, for instance. So he's working on building that stuff instead of doing deploys and dealing with the fallout from deploys.
Okay. Okay. Every industry has certain characteristics that are really hard to understand.
Oh yeah. even when you're inside these industries, it's hard to understand, and it's really hard for people to understand this role, especially,
Okay.
because they look at the software and they look at the software and they don't recognize that operating the software is not the same as building the software.
That's exactly right.
And because mostly we end up building companies, software companies get built by primarily software builders
Yeah.
and non-software people, of course, right? But within the software orgs, they're all software builders, and they're focused on features. They're focused on why this code is good. How awesome my new function is. I'm not meaning to pick fun at anybody, but this happens, and the quality of the code, and they're not thinking about what happens once it's actually running and how does it interact with all of the other pieces of the system. I did a license check. What is it now? Probably 15 years ago, for our compliance team, and we had to send them a copy of all the licenses that we had. And I just went and just scraped, the 150,000 software packages that make up Linux, because our 200 different pieces of software that come together, right? Including the open source components within the software we're writing, all sit on top of this stack of other software.
Right.
And so there's, 150, 200,000 different pieces of software that are all interacting below our little tiny layer.
Okay.
And that's the important part, is how these things all come together and interact. And we change one of these things, all of this changes.
It could ripple. Yeah.
Yes. And it does constantly. And
Yes.
so that's kind of that sysadmin job, is that final step integrator that understands why all this stuff's working together.
Okay. So I think I'm gonna kick this stuff out of the way, but it's not. I don't know.
Are you green screens back there?
Yeah, this is a green screen.
Okay. Yeah. I was like, man, that is way too clear of a virtual background, and with your thing popping out.
This part is real.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
but I don't think I want to explain all this during an
Fair
interview.
enough. Right. Yep.
Someone's gonna kick it off camera here.
Yeah.
Now,
No one's going to question that. Yeah. Well, good luck with your interview.
yeah, I don't, as far as I know, I don't have a Zoom link, so I don't know if it's going to happen. And who knows? I don't think I'm employable, but we'll see.
I know that feeling.
Yeah,
But still, do the thing, right? You got to make the effort. It's a good exercise. It's good practice.
yes, it is. It's always good to, and that's why I come to these, because sometimes I sit here and I don't talk to anybody but my wife for a week, and it's like, no, I need to go to more meetings, interface with more people, discuss things I don't normally discuss. And my wife's tired of hearing scatter theory. Everybody I talk to is pretty much so tired of my beer Lambert law extinction coefficients. The only people that want to talk to me for an hour on the last Wednesday of the month. But I think I'm all set. So I'm gonna go offline and then get ready for this meeting, because I'm not sure where. But I don't have a Zoom meeting, but I'll be ready when it comes in.
Yep. Well,
I'm glad I showed up to the meeting. Good discussion.
So am I. So thank you very much, and I'll see whoever shows up next Monday.
All right. Thanks a lot.
You too. Bye.